At the root, leaky gut is a huge
Yep.
factor with all of this, right? Because again, if the gut is damaged, now we've got proteins, we've got bacteria, yeast, different things like that seeping into that bloodstream. And that tells the body, okay, wow, we need to signal the alarm because these things, we shouldn't have abnormal proteins or
Hmm.
bacteria going around in our bloodstream. That puts us at risk for pneumonia, for meningitis, for something like that. So we've got to turn up and ramp up inflammation. And the body kind of has this like threshold level for how much abnormal protein and bacteria should be in the bloodstream. And once we get over that threshold, it's like a massive alarm throughout the whole body. And then we're releasing a lot of cortisol, right? We're releasing a lot of hormones that are associated with fight or flight. And that suppresses the hormones that have to do with healing and repairing, sexual reproduction, our anabolic, our
Yep.
testosterone, our estrogen, our progesterone, because we're putting all of our energy into fight or flight,
Yep.
cortisol and epinephrine. And this is why leaky gut can cause issues with sleep, for example. A lot of times people have insomnia, and it's really related to leaky gut and damage in their gut. So that's always the first thing that I look at. And then I kind of building off of that is just we have to look at their diet, right? Inflammatory foods
Yep.
are one of the main triggers for leaky gut.
Yep. 100%. So of course, like you talked about proteins, right? So the big proteins, I think you agree would be your glutinous proteins from grains, and
Yep.
it could even be gluten-free grains too. Sometimes rice can be a problem, corn can be a problem, especially if there's GMO residue on that, right? Like the pesticides that are used, right? Roundup,
Oh yeah.
etc. And then of course, high fructose corn syrup can have a lot of different corn residue as well. Casein in a lot of dairy, especially if it's more conventional based dairy with a lot of the hormones and things in there. So all those things can be a problem. And then of course, the more our digestion isn't optimal. So if we don't have enough acid and enzyme and bile salts, we got to break these proteins down into smaller units called peptides and amino acids. When these globules are just too big, that can create more food allergens because our bodies have these big proteins they're seeing in the bloodstream, and that can create more stress. So we got to break things down. And if that fight or flight sympathetic nervous system is going, those enzymes and acids and bile salts may be really at non-optimal levels, and we have these bigger food globules in our intestines.
For sure. We weren't meant to eat on the go, right? And so we
Hmm.
really need to be more relaxed state, take a few deep breaths. We always pray before we eat,
Yep.
right? That puts us in a state of gratitude, activates that parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve, which travels from your brain
Yep.
down into the stomach, into the gut, and activates the production of those key digestive juices so you can really break down the foods effectively. So, yeah, we definitely need to eat we have to have mindful eating habits and eat foods that are nutrient dense and not foods that are higher on the inflammatory spectrum, like you talked about. So yeah, that's huge. And then we got the third big thing is keeping our blood sugar stable, right?
Mm.
So blood
Yep.
sugar stability is super important. So like if you're eating breakfast and your breakfast consists of, let's say, an apple or a banana or something like that, and you're only eating, let's say, fruit, even though it's a healthier, more nutrient dense food, basically all it is sugar. And so what happens then? Your blood sugar goes up, insulin comes out, brings that sugar down, and now your blood sugar is down. And now your body says, okay, blood sugar is down. And if you're not metabolically flexible, or your body's not very good at burning fat for fuel, that becomes again, the alarm gets signaled because it says, okay, wow, we don't have enough sugar to fuel the brain. So we're hypoglycemic now. So
Mhm.
now we need to pump out more cortisol, more epinephrine to get the blood sugar up because cortisol is a glucocorticoid, meaning that it
Yep.
activates blood sugar release from the liver,
Mhm.
from the muscles into the bloodstream to get the sugar back up. But with that, we also kind of get this effect on our brain, this high cortisol,
Yep.
epinephrine, where it can cause us to have cravings. It can cause us to have mood swings, irritability, anxiety, a lot of different issues like that. And that just drives up inflammation in our body as well.
Yep. 100%.